All right, everybody, we are back. The Borderlands Ripper mask final results, and yeah, another print. So, anybody, welcome back to The Very Life. I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat living in Korea doing 3D printing stuff, and some of that includes doing some Ripper masks. Now, this is a Ripper mask that is from Galactic Armory. Now, to get this, you have to be a part of the Patreon for Galactic Armory, but this thing turned out pretty nice. But with that, it needs a lot of paint, but turned out pretty good. Was able to get it to fit really nicely, and yeah, this is going to be another project that I'm going to paint. But I just recently finished up a paint job that you can end up, if you go look at the desktop there, you can see that right there. We're going to take a look at that, but the first thing we're going to end up doing is we're going to take a look at the print that I just finished, which is another Ripper mask because my wife wants one. So with that, let me go pick that up and I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. And what we ended up doing is getting and printing another Ripper mask. Now we did have some supports that didn't make it on the inside. Now I don't know if you can see that, but we can see we got some squirrelies in there, and for whatever reason, it is what it is. But the good thing is that normally the supports come off fairly easy, and so we have minimal damage, and we got a little bit of fuzzies here and there, kind of like what we end up seeing there, which is just kind of odd. Looks like we got like some type of a minor shift, maybe? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we'll take off the rest of these supports and take a look and see how this fared. Now I did change the top Z distance from 0.265 to 0.24 because I thought I wanted it to be a little bit more, have a little more connected, but I don't know if that really made a difference because these just basically fell off. Now again, on this underside of the mask right there, you can see how that's a little rough on there. So the next time that I do that, I think what I'll end up doing is I will paint on the supports onto that portion, and that should be good to go. Now, as far as the rest of these, supports are coming off nicely. And 0.2 layer height is the default for most slicers, but doing a test and what I've been able to find out is that to get them to come off pretty easily is 0.24, 0.256, somewhere around there. And I'm using Polymaker PLA. With the standard Creality K2 Plus Hyper PLA settings, and yeah, it turned out fairly well. Now we got this big mass here, which, boom, and look at the results on the inside. That turned out great. So, I know some people don't print the supports on the very bottom there, which some people do that, and because they're not really concerned with the underside, and maybe one of these days I'll end up trying that out. But this just gives me the I don't know, I guess you could say peace of mind that comes with doing that. And we've got the robot coming into the room to clean. Actually, it's mopping, and that's not what I wanted to do. So Keep the robot out of the room. But there you can end up seeing the respirators on there, and the details that popped up on that are pretty nice. And so we've got that one there. This is what it looks like when we printed it with the supports. And again, these things just come out great at that 0.24. So you can do your own test. Matter of fact, I've got a test video where it ends up you can test out the top Z distance to find out which top Z distance height is good for you in your prints. And there's obviously some other variables involved, but to find out what is good for you. But these seem to work out pretty good. And again, with this mask, that's what we ended up with. Now this one is fit for my wife, and so I got to do a paint job on this because I want to try to get it done prior to Halloween. So we're going to do this, and there are the respirators fit in there. So I did a little measurement, and it turns out pretty good. So very little post-processing to do on this because of the 0.16 layer height, and even on the top there you can see there is not much to do. So that'll be like minimal sanding, very minimal sanding on that very top part. And again, we did some variable layer heights on this to get rid of some of those problem areas, but this one is obviously a little bit too narrow for me, but it's perfect for the wife. But the one that fits me is the one that I just finished painting, and I need to put some varnish on it to finish that up. But this one, let me grab this and show you what it looks like, because I am really proud of this baby here. So look at that. We've got some massive details on this. So we've got the shading, and then we've got the rust. I mean, look at the rust details on that. That turned out just awesome. And again, it's just an incredible piece. I'm just super satisfied with this. And again, we've got some damaged spots there, weathering, the whole 9 yards. This came out just fantastic. So I am really, really happy with this. This turned out way better than what I thought it would. And I've only been painting for a couple of years, and the majority of that has been painting miniatures. So to translate from that to larger, initially I thought it would be kind of a big transition, but honestly it hasn't. And it's actually quite easier because you have a larger surface area to work with, and you just need more paint. So, you know, that comes into play. And so, for example, I wanted to make this a little bit easier, and so I primed this with some 2-in-1 filler. So that's why it's kind of the gray color here, because that's that primer. And then what I ended up doing is painting it with a khaki tan that I just got from a store. You know, nothing real special about it, just kind of a matte khaki color. And that turned out really well. And then just kind of did layers. Ended up doing, of course, the cobalt blue that turned out fantastic. And then what we ended up doing is we did some washes on here to get some of that weathering and that aged look on some of there. And then, of course, we did the black, we did silver, we did some highlighting, some edge highlighting on that, and then some dark wash on like these bottom parts here to kind of simulate, you know, and underneath the bolts and things to simulate shadows. So that turned out really good. And some silver on the black for some of these damaged areas to kind of show depth. And a little bit of weathering on the cobalt blue, so it wasn't so drastic and brand new looking. But this turned out fantastic. I love this. This turned out really good. And of course, sizing it worked out really well. There was a little bit of a problem because the distance between here and here was 150 millimeters, and I needed it to be like 170. So I didn't set it in my slicer. So I was kind of at a loss for this. And what I ended up doing is I got a useful tip is to dunk the mask, of course, prior to painting, put it into hot water, and I was able to bend it out to 170, 175. And I was amazed at how flexible PLA is just with hot water. So yeah, this turned out crazy good. And I mean, you know, this is an incredible mask. And like I said, the only thing left to do now is to just do some varnish, and it's either going to be a satin varnish or maybe just a UV varnish. I'm not sure if it's a satin or not, but to seal in all these colors, seal in all the paint. So, you know, playing around with this, touching it so it won't rub off any paint or any of the details or the damage or the weathering that we've done on this. And again, this just turned out fantastic. Again, with the rust and everything, that really brought it into its own, creating more depth. And again, the washes on this thing, creating, you know, the weathered look on this. This turned out fantastic. So it's pretty amazing on how you can go with a PLA print, and you can find the link for this print in the description box down below. It's free on printables by Borderlands, which is an awesome way for fans to, I mean, that's free advertising. Every time somebody prints out something like this and posts it on social media or makes a video on YouTube, that's free advertising for Borderlands. But being able to go from this to this was a great project. So this was really, really fun. I enjoyed this process. I learned a lot. Basically, what I ended up doing is just taking what I learned from watching a ton of YouTube videos, which everybody does, on painting miniatures, and brought that into larger scale models. And so I'm really, really pleased with that. And it's easier to paint. When you've got like a 32 millimeter figure and you're there and you're trying to, you know, keeping your hand steady and trying to get those layers of colors and shadows and the different types of effects, it's really hard when you're working off of something that is so small. But when you blow that model up, scale it up, and you have something like this, it is so much easier to paint. But then you need more paint. So while over at my paint station there, I've got Army Painter airbrush paints, I've got their Mega set, I've got their Speed Paint 2.0 set over there. I also have some Citadel paints. I think I got like 10 or 12 of those. Put those into dropper bottles. That's some expensive paints, and those are mainly used for miniatures. So I didn't want to use a lot of those paints for that. So that's why I went with a rattle can, and I did end up doing the black down on this piece here and on the rivets and stuff like that. I used Abaddon black from Citadel, but honestly, I need to find some. I could have just taped this off and done it black with a spray can, and that would have saved money. So I think that's what I'm going to end up doing with this next mask, is to go through and we will prime this up in a white. Boom, do that. I got to do a little bit of sanding, but as far as filling, I mean, even on the bottom, that isn't too bad. You know, we've still got some places there, but that isn't bad at all. And, you know, compared to a 0.2 layer height, this is definitely a lot cleaner, and I'm going to save so much time between processing between a 0.2 layer versus a 0.16. It's not even funny. Basically, with this and the layer lines that I see in this, which are really minimal, I mean, I'll end up spraying this with the 2-in-1 filler from a spray can, and you can see the layer lines there. But I think that will cover it up, and then by the time we do the paint, do a couple layers of that, and then by the time we do the paint, as you see here, it's very hard to notice any layer lines. So yeah, look at that. That just came out fantastic. Now we did get the layer lines on the respirators there, as you see, but I didn't sand those down. I left those as they were because I wanted to have that. I didn't want it to be pristine, and I think the top on those respirators turned out really, really nice. So it kind of adds something to it, and if you don't know, you wouldn't know that those are layer lines. You'd actually say, hey, that's kind of cool how that is, how those are made and everything. So, but this took a little while. I've got footage of this on an action camera, painting and showing that, so I'm going to be editing that, and I'm going to jump right into the next one. So I'll post that video. I still need to edit that. So hopefully I'll get that within the next 1 or 2 days. And then I'm going to make another video, and what I think I'll end up doing is using my cell phone to get the footage of painting this one. And I want to try to go at a bit faster pace than what I did with that. So like when I paint things like this, like for the primer, I'll let that sit overnight. I'll do a couple of coats. That's basically what I did with that, was 2 coats and called it good. Maybe very minor. Yeah, I might do some sanding there. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, there's only like a couple of places where it's kind of rough. But I'll sand this bottom piece down a little bit otherwise. And on this top, and I'll call that good. We'll coat this with the 2-in-1 filler, and with that primer, it's kind of an off-white type look. So we're going to use that as our base, and then we'll kind of do some weathering. And I think what we'll end up doing is we'll do red for the little colored arch that we have in there. We'll do black for the bottom. Again, what we'll end up doing is we'll do some silver, some lead belcher from Citadel. We'll do some dry brushing, and again, we'll do some weathering and add some different colors or shades of colors by using some washes. Washes is what I ended up using here to get like the colors that you see like around the eyes and stuff. You can see how it's kind of dark on this top part here. Well, that's because of the washes, and you can see some of the the coloring, and then underneath this bolt, and then right in there you can see all of that is shading. And then down here on this piece here, that is also washes that I used to create some depth and to break up some of this huge amount of tan and to simulate some of the shadows here. And same thing under the bolts and the rivets, put a little bit into there, and around these little vent-like things here. And again, you can see like on these bolts how I used some wash to just kind of to weather that out. And it turned out fantastic. So, as I look at this, I might want to put a little bit more on the edges of that damage. But again, you could nitpick this thing to death and make it even better with just little tweaks and additions to this. But I think we're pretty much done with this. So the only thing I need to do is to seal this up. We're going to get some window screen material, some patch window screen material for the eyes. And we will put that onto the back here, and then we'll be able to print out the little section for the eyes, and we'll paint that with a white and a fluorescent red. So that way we get those kind of the glowing red eyes. And with the screen material that we have on here, you'll be able to see out, but it'll be harder to see in. So that'll, again, really make this mask pop. So this should turn out really well. And then with the one for my wife, again, we're going to kind of go with a whitish color, and then we'll do the bright red, and then we'll have the blue eyes. So we're kind of going to go that route. Blue or pink, I'm not sure. So, we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll do blue on that one, or I'll do red on that one, and then do blue with this with the red graphic on there. But I'm really going to pick up the pace and try to get this done as quickly as possible. So we'll see what happens with that. So yeah, a little bit of adjustment on this. I think this should fit. We measured the width of my wife's face, And we should have this. Matter of fact, let me see how that come out. So it's about 155, 154. That might be close. But again, if you have a PLA print and it's a helmet and it's a little bit too narrow or something like that, especially with a mask like this, just dunk this in hot water, not boiling hot, but just hot water where you can still touch it, and you'll be able to pull this thing out. It's amazing on how much flexibility and how this will move. Maybe I'll do that in a video. And just to kind of show how much you can manipulate this PLA with just hot water. So that can be a lifesaver for a lot of people, because I know myself and some others included that are new into 3D printing, we're thinking, okay, well, now I got to buy a heat gun, and now I got to heat it up, and I got the heat gun, and I'm going to have gloves, and so on and so forth, and it's hot to the touch and all that. Really, that's not necessary. So somebody passed a tip on to me. I'm passing it on to you all, and yeah, I think I'll do a little video clip on that. But very cool stuff, very cool stuff. I love the 3D printing and enjoy the creativity, and of course I also like the painting of that stuff as well. So for those of you who are interested, you might be wondering where you can find this Ripper helmet from Borderlands, and so we're going to jump right over here, and there it is. If you go to printables.com, and the link is in the description box down below, you can see they have the Ripper mask, and again, they have it kind of painted in a white version with an orange and a blue. I think I'm going to go with the white version for the wife, and then hers will have the red with the blue eyes, or maybe green eyes, something like that. That'd be kind of cool because she's Korean. You know, the Asian green eye kind of thing will probably do that. But it turned out really good. As a matter of fact, you've got pictures of people that printed this out. Now, some people, it ends up with their multi-head systems that they have on their printers, they can print out and it's all done in color. So there's very little painting to be done. So it's pretty amazing. There's an interesting little thing. No sanding required, 17 hours. 0.2 layer height. Again, I did mine at 0.16, but all of this, that one turned out really good. 144 hours on the X1 carbon, didn't need to paint it. Again, with the multi-material system, 144 hours. Wow. And there's mine right there. I don't have the, I got to post the finished photos on that, so I'll do that. But yeah, you can go to Printables, type in Border Mask Borderlands 4, boom, and you can download that for free, which is awesome. I think more companies need to do that because you're going to have so many people that are going to get involved with that video game because of the 3D printing, and it's free advertising. So let's say maybe Borderlands ended up spending, I don't know, maybe what? You know, $200, $300, $400, let's say $500 given to some modeler to make these masks, and then they post them for free on Printables, which doesn't cost them anything, and they get free advertising from there on out. It's probably the cheapest advertisement that they could probably ever do. You know, print, radio, social media, you know, somebody's got to take time to post all this. Well, when you put this model into the hands of people, they print it, they paint it, they do their own thing. Boom, it ends up, it's free advertising all over. So yeah, very, very good. So with that, that's what we're going to end up doing. And again, like I said, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be editing the video of the footage of me painting it. I'm going to try to make that, you know, for each stage, you know, the primer, of course, the tan, the black, and do some little cutscenes in there of each little technique that I did. And we'll see how that goes. I'm not well versed in that, but I'm going to give it a shot and at least gives you all, ladies and gentlemen, some ideas on how you can paint your Ripper mask. And there's lots of different ways to paint, but I think this one turned out really, really well. You know, especially with the rust and all that. The damage, this is going to turn out good. So if you're thinking about getting into cosplay, or you're thinking about, your 3D printer, and you want to print something out that is really cool, but you don't want to do like a full-size helmet or armor, you're just not there yet, this is a great way to get into printing some cool stuff on your 3D printer. Now, I have the Creality K2 Plus, and that works out really well, but you can also print these out on other machines. Again, it's getting to the point of where 3D printing is getting to be almost plug and play. You install your printer, do some tests, it does the automatic leveling and input shaping and some other cool stuff, and next thing you know, you throw in some filament, throw in the fire, do the supports, and boom. Like I said, this was about 15 or 16 hours, and 15 hours and 10 minutes, I think it was. And boom, you've got yourself a mask with minimal processing work. There's so many videos online of just even a few years ago, or 4 or 5, 6, 7 years ago, where people would print out cosplay items, and they would spend hours and hours of putting in filler and wood filler and Bondo and this and that, and getting out the angle grinder, sander, palm sander thing, and then going back 2 or 3 different times and trying to level and smooth all these things out. But now, the quality of 3D printing is getting to the point now of, doing it 0.16. I'm going to have, maybe with a little bit of sanding that I have here, maybe 10 minutes, and it'll be good to go. So, and then I can just go right into priming it, and it will be a done deal. So, something to think about if you want to get into 3D printing. So with that being said, we're finished up pretty much for this. We're just going to do the varnish on it and seal it, either a satin varnish or UV varnish, something like that, to lock in those colors. So messing around with it, it won't rub off the acrylic paint. And I got to find some acrylic paints that are not as expensive as Army Painter or Citadel paints for larger projects like these here. So if you have an idea, or you have some of those, or something that I should check out, put it in the description box down below. So your job is to tell me if you like that print and the color scheme, and if you printed out one of these and painted these, would you want blue, red, orange, or maybe silver, gray, black, green? That's another option. Like the video and put the color choice that you would paint this in, and I definitely like to take a look at that. Be sure you subscribe to the channel. With that, we're going to close this out with the obligatory outro with all the information. You can contact me by the email address right there. I always answer the email. Just say hi or whatever it is. I'm an American expat in Korea, so if you got questions about that, or like I said, just share what you have printed out, send me an email. I'd love to see those things. These people over here bought me coffee. You can do that too. Link in the description box. But the best thing that you could do for me is to hit that like button. That is the absolute best thing that you can do to appease the YouTube gods, and I can continue to grow this channel. Again, I'm Steve, the American retired expat hobby tech guy here in Korea. I know that's a lot to say. And everything that comes up, this is a hobby, loving it, enjoying it, and I like sharing my experiences with you all, and I like getting tips and tricks. So if you've got anything like that, put them in the comments section down below. All right, since we're done, that is it, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace. That turned out really, really nice. Nice.